Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel, Reading Through the Generations. I'm Precious, and today we have a special guest, my mother-in-law Carol, and we'll be talking about the books we're currently reading, as well as the books that we'd like to get to for the month of February. Carol, why don't you take it away?
Oh, thank you. Okay, here's what I'm currently reading. It's called Looking for the Hidden Folk by Nancy Marie Brown. And its subtitle is How Iceland's Elves Can Save the Earth. And it's basically a chronicle of how the stories we tell explaining our environment shape both our environment and ourselves. And it's an absolutely wonderful exploration both of Iceland itself and its legends and mythology, and most of all too its people. There's just some wonderful characters in here, and since I'll never get to Iceland, I'm really enjoying it. That's what I'm currently reading. This is one that my wonderful sister-in-law just sent me, Pastoral Song, A Farmer's Journey by James Rebanks. He was the author of A Shepherd's Life, which I absolutely loved, and this is kind of a continuation of that. It's his efforts to restore his family's ancient farm. It's an old English farm that his family has farmed for generations, and in the process of explaining what they're doing, he basically creates a parable for all of us, for how we relate to the earth. And this is interesting that somehow these are all books I just grabbed off my table, and all of them involve that kind of, how we relate to the earth and how important it is to make that a healthy relationship. This is another wonderful book my sister-in-law sent me, Around the World in 80 Plants by Jonathan Drury, with absolutely stunning illustrations by Lucille Clare. It's a delightful book that you can just dip into anywhere. Each page is a full-page spread of illustration and text, and it gives like folklore about that particular plant, as well as the botany of it and what it's used for. And it's really fun to just dip into and read everything from roses to saffron. I really am enjoying just picking it up and opening it wherever it opens and reading it. It's really fun. And here's another one. This one's heavy. The Living Landscape. It's basically how to create biodiversity and promote it in your own garden, even your own backyard or your deck. I mean, it's designing for beauty and biodiversity in the home garden, and it's got beautiful photographs by Dick Dark. What a name, Dick Dark. Isn't that wonderful? And anyway, it's another more like a coffee table book, but it sure has great ideas in it and beautiful photographs. It's just stunning. So I don't know if you can see what some of these are, but that's another one that I've been looking at. And the one that I haven't read yet at all is called Widows of the Ice, The Women That Scott's Antarctic Expedition Left Behind. It's by Anne Fletcher. And I'm just looking forward to this because if you've read anything about Antarctica, you've heard about the Scott expedition, which was tragically ended with all of them dying. But this is about their wives and who they were, which nobody has ever bothered to notice before. So I'm really looking forward to reading that. And then just for fun, this is a series by Cleo Coyle. the haunted bookshop mysteries, and this is The Ghost in the Haunted Mansion. These are mysteries involving a wise-ass ghost who lives in he doesn't live, he haunts a bookshop, but he's a kind of a parody of the hard-boiled detective, and they're fun. They're just for fun. And that's my pile for today.
Wonderful. And I'll be stealing these after she finishes them. Because they all sound just wonderful. One of the books that I started last night, in fact, is The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. This was a nominee for the Women's Prize for Fiction last year. And I believe it's going to have dual timelines and multiple perspectives. One of the protagonists is an evolutionary botanist and ecologist, and the other perspective is of a fig tree and of its life. And so far it's just beautiful. I'll read the opening because I think it was just so lyrical. Once upon a memory, at the far end of the Mediterranean Sea, there lay an island so beautiful and blue that the many travelers, pilgrims, crusaders, and merchants who fell in love with it either wanted never to leave or tried to tow it with the hemp ropes all the way back to their own countries. Legends, perhaps. But legends are there to tell us what history has forgotten. It has been many years since I fled that place on board a plane, inside a suitcase made of soft black leather, never to return. I have since adopted another land, England, where I have grown and thrived. But not a single day passes that I do not yearn to be back. Home, motherland. It must still be there where I left it, rising and sinking with the waves that break and foam upon its rugged coastline, at the crossroads of 3 continents, Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Levant, that vast and impenetrable region vanished entirely from the maps of today. A map is a 2-dimensional representation with arbitrary symbols and incised lines that decide who is to be our enemy and who is to be our friend, who deserves our love and who deserves our hatred, and who our sheer indifference. Cartography is another name for stories told by winners. For stories told by those who have lost, there isn't one. So that's what I'm currently reading. Then I have a book by Betty Smith, who wrote A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, called Joy in the Morning, and I believe this is a love story, probably semi-autobiographical since many of her books were. Then I have a book by H.E. Bates, it's missing its cover, called Love for Lydia, which is also semi-autobiographical, and it's about his first love affair in the 1920s in England, and it's very, very beautiful too. Then one I've been dipping in and out of is The Nature of Oaks by Douglas W. Tallamy, and this is just, it goes through every month of the year. I've already read January's, and I've started on February, and I highly recommend it. It's beautiful. If you're a tree lover, you've got to pick this one up. Then similar to Carols Around the World in 80 Plants, I have Around the World in 80 Trees, and this is also one that you can dip in and out of, and it is beautifully illustrated by Jonathan Drury. This is a weeping willow. So that's what we've been reading. Thank you so very much for joining us. Take good care. Bye-bye.